Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before I get to our guest here today, well, first of all, you should recognize our guest. We have Ally back on the podcast. It's been, I think it was close to a year. It might be actually a little bit more than a year that we've had her on. And obviously, things have changed drastically since she's last come on. And I always told everyone, I always like to ask at the end of the podcast, if we were to like to talk to you a year from now, where would you like to be at? But if anyone would have predicted a global pandemic and everything else that's going on, I would have bet my entire life savings that, that wouldn't happen. So, that question is thrown completely out of the water, but she's in the medical field too, so we'll talk to her a little bit about that. But, we'll just talk a little bit about what she's been up to this last year. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Ally, thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me back. I'm really excited to kind of be back and go over everything that's been going on the past year.
Well, absolutely. Well, and I think the last time you were on, were you in Indiana or?
I was in Pittsburgh. Yep, I was still up north in Pittsburgh.
So now she has moved down to the, the gator hellhole that is Florida. But what's the weather like in Florida today?
Today it's actually pretty rainy down here. It's been really, really hot and humid lately. So I think today's like in the mid 90s and it's raining, but it's been so nice being down here compared to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, we were, getting snow at this point of year probably. So it's been a good change of pace.
Well, the only time I've ever been to Florida myself is we had a spring trip for our baseball team in high school, where we went down to Vero Beach. And the one thing, so I got to ask if this has been shocking for you too, because the one thing that really got me is that, we have squirrels and everything like that in the Midwest and Pittsburgh and stuff, but their squirrels are basically like those little geckos. They're just all over the place.
Yes. I've had 2 in my house so far.
I didn't get in. I that was the one thing that shocked me the most. Anything else about Florida, like I was surprised that there was that many of them just around and just walking around. You're like, oh, that's a gecko. I've never seen one before. But yeah, they're everywhere. We used to play a prank where we would capture one and then we'd put it in someone's bed, like when they weren't looking. So then when they'd open it up, it would come like flying. But yeah, it's a whole different world down there. But what's it like in Florida? Because when you live in such a climate like you used to live in Pittsburgh and then in Minnesota, where you only have to look good like 3 months out of the year because that's the only time you're going to be able to like go outside on a beach or anything. But in Florida, where the weather's nice 24/7, what's that been like? And especially during a pandemic, where it's like, if I were down in Florida, I'm not going to lie, I would try to go to a beach or do something, but it would just be so hard for me to like convince myself. But what has that been like, being that you are in perfect weather basically to go outside and enjoy yourself, but we're in the middle of a pandemic?
It's been awesome. Until the pandemic hit, it was really nice because you could literally go outside anytime. Mid-December I was outside in, maybe leggings and a tank top or a short sleeve shirt, maybe a sweatshirt every once in a while. Yeah, so that was really nice, having the opportunity to be outside and go for runs and hikes. Well, hiking is not really the best term to use for hiking in Florida. It's more like trail walks. But yeah, it's definitely been super nice. It was a good transition, being able to be outside more often during the year. But when the pandemic hit, I actually went back up to Pittsburgh. My boyfriend's up there, or he was up there, and my family's up in New Jersey. So I went back up to visit them for a couple of months, and then I came back down. But Florida has been in a state of denial, I think. I think they think that the pandemic doesn't exist. I was actually at the beach yesterday, and it wasn't as crowded as you would think it would be, but there was definitely people all over the place, no masks. So the social distancing is definitely still a thing down here. Like, people are definitely keeping their distance and staying clean, especially in the gyms and everything. But it's kind of normal life right now.
like the joke that all the other 49 states would like to make is, in Florida, people's lives are expendable. They don't really matter. So it's like they can let Florida do whatever Florida wants to do as long as they don't come to our state. But please don't tell me you dragged your boyfriend all the way down to Florida with you now.
I did.
Oh, God.
He moved in June, the end of May, beginning of June. He moved down
here. that guy, that poor guy. Geez, going down to Florida for you must be something special if he's going all the way down to Florida with you. But geez. But hey, at least you have the nicer weather. But yeah, it's so fascinating. But what's it been like for your bodybuilding and your health and fitness journey? What's it been like the last year since we talked?
It's been a roller coaster. So we talked before I had moved down to Florida. I was still up in Pittsburgh. And then when I moved down to Florida, I moved down to start PA school, which, if whoever doesn't know, it's physician assistant. It's a master's degree. It's a 2-year program, but when you come out, you have pretty advanced education, pretty advanced skills. So it's pretty intense. It's a really labor-intensive program. We were in the classroom from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day. And then, you have the study and all of that on top of it. So it was pretty difficult. I was waking up at like 4 o'clock every morning, at the gym by 5, 4:45, 5 o'clock. I would lift and then go right to class, and then after class, I would study for about an hour or two, and it was just repeat every single day for a year, basically, until the pandemic hit and we had to go online.
So I have an online doctor's appointment scheduled at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, and I don't even know if I can get up for that. So that's just showing how different we are. But it's, I mean, yeah, I have a friend too. Like I was telling you, she's doing her residency, and she's also going to be a PA. Where, yeah, that's not fun. But like her, did you have like, so she, I think it was between like March, and then she just went back like 2 weeks ago. Did they just give you guys just like a couple of months off where you guys were kind of just like in a limbo?
So a lot of programs, unfortunately, they had to like postpone, like they had to actually stop classes because they didn't have the capabilities to go online. I'm lucky enough to go to a program where we had the capabilities of online classes and Zoom classes. They had pre-recorded classes from the previous year that we could listen to. So it actually didn't hinder our education at all. We were still able to continue and finish every class that we had. The only thing it did hinder was a little bit of our hands-on work. So when we came back to campus in June, we had to do all of our suturing in a week. We had to learn how to suture. We had to do a lot of our advanced procedures like intubation and lumbar punctures and stuff, kind of all within a 2 week span before going to clinicals. So that was a little hectic. But as far as like learning the medicine and the diagnostics and treatments and stuff, that was all, there was no lapse in education for us, which was a godsend.
Which I think because I think she completed like the classwork part of it, because I think she was doing her last year where like you're just like shadowing people and like, or like you're being assigned different things a month. So yeah, she was out for a while, which believe me, and I've had to hear everything about it because like she was going to graduate this coming December, and now it's like in March. So then she has to
Okay,
she had a trip to New Zealand planned because they have like that 3 month break between when you graduate and when you find a job. So
yeah.
yeah, it's been interesting, but yeah, she's one of those weirdos where like she'll send video, or like she's really into like those videos of like zits being popped and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, Dr. Pimple Popper and all that.
Oh my god! I always tell her it takes us. I mean, hey, you have to be like I've always said to her, you have to be just a tiny bit crazy in the head to like want to cut people open and stuff like that. And even though I know it's for the better of them, but hey, I'm glad that we have people. I'm glad that we have people like that. But that's one of the last things that you'd expect me to find. But when it comes to this bodybuilding journey too, I mean, what has the journey been like for you from the past year? Have you been in any shows, or what's that journey been like?
So I've been strictly in off season since my last show was April 6th in Ohio in 2019. So I've been in off season for about a year. I didn't want to prep at all. I knew I wasn't going to prep during my didactic year of education. I knew like I was going to take a year off season because I'm natural. It takes a little bit longer for me to put on size, and it's a little bit easier for me to lose it when I start prep. So I wanted to make sure I had a significant amount of time to really make the corrections and add the size that I needed to. So I was maybe thinking about prepping in the fall, but with the pandemic, that's kind of out of the question for me right now. I don't want to risk it. It's just not worth it for me, especially with clinicals right now. I'd rather focus my attention on that and still continue to put on size and improvements. And then we're hoping maybe for a show in the spring sometime.
Well, since you've been in off season, this whole time, have your workouts changed at all from the last time that we talked to you?
They've changed a little bit. So my workouts change about every 12 weeks ish, 8 to 12 weeks. They've focused a lot more on adding strength, so lifting heavier weights. And especially during the pandemic, I had to do a lot of at home stuff. So it was a lot of makeshift workouts. I actually wound up finding a weight set on like Facebook Marketplace and was able to get a barbell and some plates, which I'm very thankful for because it really saved my So that definitely changed a lot, especially my cardio, because I didn't have access to a treadmill or a stair climb or anything. All my cardio had to be like hit body workouts or sprinting hills in Pittsburgh, which is not fun at all.
I've been to Pittsburgh once, and I remember that. Yeah, the city. For anyone that doesn't realize, it's basically surrounded by hills. You're basically just
Yeah.
like it's crazy, but yeah. So that does not sound like a fun time. But yeah, we've heard so many stories about people who have next thing you know, you're looking on either like Craigslist or anything, and there's a weight set that's going for like $500. When you're like, hey, that was $60 before the pandemic. But hey, I mean, people have been finding ways to do that. But most importantly, because like we talked about last time, I mean, it's 90% of the lifestyle is the nutrition. Has your nutrition changed at all?
It's definitely it's varied every so often. I was on obviously a whole ton of calories when I came off of prep and started reversing. We got my calories pretty high. I went on a little cut over the winter, just like a small cut, and now we're back to gaining about 135 right now. We're aiming to get me up to 140, a lean 140, um, and then go from there. But right now, I think I'm pushing a little over 2,000 calories. And I'm only 5'2". So, I mean, that's decent for me. I think I'm close to 21, 22 right now, which is really good. I'm happy with it. I'm not starving. I'm enjoying my food for sure. I'm enjoying my cheat meals.
I feel so bad hearing that because I'm 6'3", so 2,000 calories for me, that's like a meal almost.
Yeah, I know. That's nothing for you.
And so I'm at the phase right now because like all the gyms were closed here, but my parents have a setup to maintain a pump basically downstairs. But I've been doing a crap ton of cardio where like I have so much free time now where I'll walk for like 100 minutes and I'll get like 8 or 9 miles done, and then that's burning what, like 1,500 calories for me basically. So then
Yep.
yeah, I'm basically just constantly eating them the rest of the time. But what has your relationship with cardio been like during this pandemic and during this past year?
It's actually, especially during the pandemic, during off season when I was reversing out, and the beginning of off season, my cardio was actually pretty high. And during didactic year, that was really hard for me, and it got to the point where I started to hate cardio. And I don't. I'm a runner. I love like I'm supposed to love cardio. So during my off season, I definitely got to a point where I was just tired of being on the treadmill or a stair climber. It was just boring. So when the pandemic hit, it actually gave me an excuse to get back into running. Florida running is really difficult for me because I don't do well in humidity. I'm used to the northern weather, the drier air. So definitely when I went back up to Pittsburgh, I was really happy to actually be able to trail run again, do sprints, do some outdoor workouts. It really got me back into the whole cardio vibe and enjoying cardio instead of dreading it.
Just do the Ryan Johnson strategy where you get on a treadmill that you have downstairs in your nice comfy basement. You put a movie on that you like that's at least 100 minutes long, and then you just, that's the only way I'm able to do it. Because if I had no movie or nothing to entertain me on, I'd be about 10 minutes in. I'd be like, okay, this is boring and dull. And notice that I say walking. If you were to get me to try to run, no. I hate cardio, but when it comes to walking, and plus I had jobs at UPS and working in warehouses where I was getting like 20 to 30,000 steps every single shift.
Those jobs are insane.
Yeah, so then it gets to a point where this is nothing for me. Like walking like 14,000 steps in like 100 minutes, and so yeah, it's been interesting. But what's it been like being in the medical field, just dealing with this pandemic? Because I can imagine that if there's any time to have any hands-on training, I mean, now is probably the time to have it because we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, I'm actually really thankful that I'm in the transition from didactic year to clinical year. So I'm currently almost done with my second month of clinicals. And my first month was done in internal medicine, which is basically when you get admitted from the emergency room, an internal medicine doctor, PA, NP takes over the care while you're in the hospital. So I was in internal medicine my first rotation, which I was really nervous for because you kind of have to know like a little bit about everything. And a lot of our patients wound up being COVID patients that we had to manage. So it was really interesting getting to learn how to care for them because the care is it's so interesting and so unique. So that was kind of really cool. It was really sad because a lot of them wound up going onto ventilators, which is just kind of the course of the disease. But it was very interesting getting to learn about that, especially since it is such an evolving treatment plan. Like every other day we hear something about dexamethasone or hydroxychloroquine or this, remdesivir and all this stuff. So there's a lot of variability and differing in opinion amongst a lot of physicians right now. So it was really cool. It's a really cool time to be learning medicine.
Which I want to get down to the bottom of this because with hydroxychloroquine, it's been, going every other way where, I mean, Trump said it works for people, and then people were saying, no, it doesn't, and then people were saying, oh, we were wrong, it does work for people, and then now they're saying it doesn't work, and then it just seems to flip-flop. So what is the current thinking of with hydroxychloroquine when it comes to people with coronavirus taking it?
So the current vibe where I'm down in Tampa, and I'm at a hospital down in Bradenton. The current vibe where I'm at is hydroxychloroquine is not used. It's dexamethasone. Remdesivir has been kind of running low down here, so we haven't really been using it. Dexamethasone and anticoagulation, so Lovenox or heparin, has been really, really big in their care. So we haven't used hydroxychloroquine yet. I have heard of a lot of physicians elsewhere using it and having success. So I don't really know. It's still very up in the air. I haven't really been able to read a lot of the studies on it that have proved that it's successful, but there's definitely been a lot more talk in the past week or so about the success of that medication.
And then, like, one of the myths too that people have about this disease too is that, oh, if I'm young, it's not going to be that bad for me. But have you dealt with any like young patients like in their 20s that have severe problems with it?
I haven't seen anyone in their 20s really. I've seen, yeah, obviously, like I've had a couple of friends that have tested positive, and have had like mild symptoms and just quarantined for
Well,
the
well,
2 weeks.
that's me as well. I did have the mild symptoms, yeah, but
Oh
yeah.
god, yeah. I've had some of my friends said it was awful. It was like the worst flu they've ever had. So I have seen a couple people test positive for it, but I haven't seen anyone in their 20s in the hospital in such severe state. But I have seen some fairly young people, like late 30s, early, mid 30s. A lot of the people that are getting sick and are having such issues with it do have a lot of comorbidities, and obesity is the number one number one killer right now, I think, for people with COVID. So any kind of lung issues or heart disease, that's going to put you at way higher risk for, being admitted to the hospital and having a worse disease course.
Which, I mean, for a podcast that preaches about living a healthy and fit lifestyle, I don't know if there's any other time to really stress that than there is right now. But so yeah, people get out there and I mean, just at least do something because yeah, I don't even know how to. I mean, if this doesn't inspire you to get in shape and work out, I don't know what will. So like,
Hmm.
who really knows? But when it comes to also, I mean, just the stress that people have during this time and all this uncertainty that it had, how have you been dealing with this whole thing mentally? Because like as you can tell with me, I'm a very talkative person. I mean, I have a podcast in my free time. Okay, that just shows how many words that I need to get out of my mouth per day. Where literally, I mean, so I'm one of these people where I need to be in almost constant contact. I need to be talking all the time. So this has been just horrible for me with friends where, I mean, we'll go out, and have like bonfires or something like that, like once a month or whatever. But it's just, it's horrible. But how have you been dealing with this mentally, kind of the social isolation part of it where, I mean, you do have a boyfriend, so that does help. But like, what has this been like for you?
It's been very different. I am a very, I don't want to say I'm an introvert, but I'm a very independent person to where I do well on my own. But when the pandemic hit, I moved up north or back up north with my boyfriend and his two roommates. So I kind of had a little bit of friendship within that realm for a while, which was really nice to have that social interaction. But it was really hard being away from my classmates because we're together for 8 hours a day, every day of the week for almost a year. We grow such a close bond, and then all of a sudden we don't see them at all ever again. And that, I think, that was the hardest part for me, is not being able to see my classmates. I'm the president of my class, so I'm very close with a lot of them, and it was really difficult to not. I lived with one of my classmates, so not seeing her for so long, and the rest of my classmates and the faculty too. It was a little weird, and I didn't really like it very much.
So as someone who's never been academically gifted in their life other than history, which I mean, that's the only class that I ever really cared about. How does one become a president of your class? You just get nominated?
Yeah, it was actually so I went into PA school thinking I don't want to run for a position. I don't want to be involved in anything because I don't know if I'm not academically gifted. I have to work very hard at getting the grades that I want. So I was like, I don't know if I can handle like PA school and a position. It's a lot of stress, it's a lot of dedication. And then the first couple weeks of PA school, a couple of my classmates had like mentioned, "Hey, you should run for president." And I was like, I don't know about that. That's not really a good idea. And then it just kind of started trending around the classroom. And I actually ran unopposed, which was really nice. But my classmates have been awesome. They're super supportive. They are very helpful with anything that I need done or need help with. So it's actually been a really easy transition for me. And I've enjoyed it so much.
Well, I gotta change my answer now because I'll probably have friends watching this, and I'll get these text messages because they do happen. They're saying, "Ryan, you are academically gifted. You're just too lazy and don't care." So I'll change it. So if I care, then I'm good at what I. But like, yeah, so I'm sorry, like biology class or whatever like that, like memorizing
The periodic table.
periodic. It's like no, it's like I want.
It's not
If
going to help
any,
you.
what does that have to do with it? Yeah, so yeah, I'm one of those people where it's like, yeah, I'm gifted, but it's like I was not given the concentration or the focus. My ADD really kicks in then there. So yeah, that's a whole different podcast in and of itself. But yeah, it's just yeah with the classes and everything. But what was that? I mean, like you said, you did a lot of home workouts too. how long did you have to do that? Because I mean, we had some places where the gyms were closed for only like a week, and then we had other places where they were closed for a month. But how long was it for you that you really had to do the whole workout circuit?
I believe so. I stayed in Florida until the end of March, and I said I was going to stay down in Florida until the gyms closed because once they closed in Florida, I knew they were closed everywhere else. So I stayed in Florida until the end of March, and then I went up to Pittsburgh. I think I was the last week of March. I drove up to Pittsburgh. So from about March 25th until the beginning of May, so probably like 2 months ish. I think. So it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too long because gyms opened up in Florida pretty quickly. They didn't want to stay closed very long. So I got very lucky with the availability that I had to certain gyms and access to certain gyms.
Now, for anyone who doesn't understand the analogy, I'll just say it though. For a bodybuilder, having the gyms closed is like an alcoholic all of a sudden having no alcohol, like if all the bars were just closed and all the liquor stores. So what was that immediate panic like for you, or were you already like ready and prepared for it? You're like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do, because we had some guests on where literally they just had to improvise like the next day trying to figure out something, and then they got frustrated because they're like, this is not the same as going to a gym. But what was that adjustment like for you?
It was honestly terrifying at first because I'm so used to going to the gym 5 or 6 days a week, 5 days a week, every single day. For the past, I don't even know how many years, since college probably. So I'm 27 now. It's past 3, 4, 5 years. It was definitely a huge transition for me, and I was really scared. I was excited because it kind of gave me a little bit of a change in pace and change in atmosphere, getting to work out outside and use resistance bands and weights and stuff. But it was so hard to work hard enough to make sure that I was sore or make sure that I was feeling it. I had to do way more volume, way more reps, way more sets, and just a lot more time spent working out than originally. So what would have usually taken me 45 minutes to do now took me an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then my cardio went up. We didn't really have to change my diet too much. He pulled away a little bit of calories from me at first, just because my body was responding more to the stress and I was holding a lot of water. But yeah, it was definitely terrifying at first. But my boyfriend and his two roommates are all bodybuilders, so we kind of made do with the environment that we had.
Yeah. So knowing that they were all bodybuilders, did they have anything in their apartment, or were you basically the one that was, filling up the water jugs and like getting the broomsticks and stuff?
I was the one getting the broomsticks and loading the backpacks up with freaking bricks to make a squat bar, and I had to teach them because they were like gym rats through and through. Like they never worked out outside of a gym, so I had to kind of teach them and show them like, hey, you can do, like, there is other ways around what you can do, and using the resistance bands and stuff. They had like a pull-up bar that we were able to do a lot with, and they had a decent driveway to make sure that we had sufficient room for stuff. So it was definitely a learning curve for a lot of us.
Well, that's when, I mean, too bad it wasn't the winter, because I would just say just have them go outside and shovel snow. That's the best workout. That's the best back workout you'll ever get in your entire life. Especially, I gotta explain this for the people down south though. So just so everyone gets it, the worst type of snow to shovel in is the snow where it's close to freezing point, because then that's the snow where it packs together, and next thing you know, one shovel ends up weighs about 60 pounds, and then you're like, holy crap, But yeah, so unfortunately it wasn't that weather, but yeah, it's good that you were able to make, those changes and adaptations. But were there any food shortages that you had to deal with? Because all throughout the country, I mean, we had some people, I mean, in Minnesota, we had a meat shortage, and then, the pigs were getting too fat to even like fit in the thing. So then they had to be taken care of. But so there was a meat shortages around here, but did you have to deal with any of that where you were?
We were pretty lucky. I think there was maybe only one day that we had an issue, but since they were all bodybuilders, they all prepped ahead of time and like went to the store and bought every single pack of chicken and beef and shrimp and seafood that you could possibly find. So they're free. We actually had, thank God we had a mini fridge, so we were able to use both of them. And we were able to stock up a decent amount. There was definitely a couple of things that we didn't have every once in a while that we would have to run to the store for. But for the most part, we got really lucky, and they all worked at GNC, so we had access to like, protein products and stuff like that, which was really helpful.
So they're the most stereotypical bodybuilders ever, where they work at GNC.
Bodybuilders who work at GNC, very typical, right?
I mean, that's like, that's that.
It was nice because GNC never closed, so we always had access to like that stuff. So it was easy to kind of just pop over and grab a couple of supplements that we like needed if we were running short on protein or carbs or something.
Or you could just be like me, who has a neighbor who literally has 3 freezers full of venison because he's a big hunter. So literally he was he was good for the next 3 years, basically, worth
Oh
where
yeah,
he
the
could.
people up in Pittsburgh were stocked for
Yeah.
life because they're all hunters up
Yeah.
there.
Oh yeah. So it's like, yeah. So I'd even walk over there, and he'd just throw it out to me and be like, "Hey, you want some?" Heck yeah. So yeah, that's. I mean, hey, some people are good to go, but also, I mean, just the mindset of how everything really differed with your training too. What was that whole like mindset adjustment? Because like you said, you're in the gym for a little bit longer now, or not even the gym, you're at your workouts longer. And I mean, for bodybuilders, and even for me who's not a bodybuilder but it just works out a lot, is you have in your mindset like, okay, from this time to this time, this is when I'm going to work out, from that time. But knowing that it really had to change things up, what was that like? Because bodybuilders and me can be a little OCD when it comes to everything has to be perfect with their time management. Was that just a whole thing where you really just had to throw everything out the wayside and be like, okay, I need to retrain my brain, at least for this time being, that it's all right that if I go longer than expected?
Yeah, it was really hard because we were transitioning to online, so I was also getting used to having 8 hours of my day back in my life. So I had way more free time than I knew what to do with, to a certain extent. Like, yeah, I had to study, still for exams and everything, but having those 8 extra hours in the day, you don't realize like how much you can do in 8 hours. So, and especially after like week 4 or 5 of the at home workouts, it just got to the point where I just couldn't get the motivation. Like, I would sit in the kitchen and just look at my pre-workout meal and just be like, there is not 1 ounce of me that wants to go lift a weight right now. And that's never happened to me before. Never once have I dreaded lifting in my life. So that's when it got really bad. And that's when I like started having a little bit of a breakdown, because I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Like, this is not good. I need gym back. I need the weights back. Like, I need to get back to normalcy.
Yeah. Or so this is actually a fun tangent story time. So you're talking about online stuff. So my fourth semester of college, I decided to go all online just because I was at home just to save some money. So all the classes that I took had a thing where there was no date that you couldn't take all the tests. So like you could literally, like, the first day of class, you could take all the tests and
Oh
stuff,
wow.
and have your entire grade. So within 3 weeks, all of my classes, I knew that I was at least going to get B's in them. So I literally just did 3 weeks of it, and then the whole rest of the semester I didn't do anything. I
Oh
just
my God.
I just had a free semester, really, where I was just at home, just goofing around basically, and I'd go and visit friends at their colleges on the weekends. So yeah, it was interesting, but yeah, that's the only time I'm ever going to do that, because I'm one of those people too where it's like, if I'm not in class in person, I'm not going to do anything. Like, if you were to tell me,
Yeah.
Ryan, do this or follow this thing, it's like, no, I just, my attention's not going to be able to do it, which I mean, like this, like, it's like, if I wasn't interested in this podcast, there'd be no way that I mean, I'm just one of those people where it's like, I have to have like intrinsic value into it. So yeah, but I mean, with the workouts too, that's just yeah. I mean, I struggled with that as well, and just the social isolation part of it. I mean, so many people have dealt with that, but I always say this is the one time for everyone out there, because I say for the general public, so many people want to get in shape, but they just don't have the tools and the knowledge on how to do it. I mean, I bet if you were to ask everyone, they would say, yeah, I want to look better. I just don't know how to do it. But this is the one time where they can actually, that excuse that we hear all the time of, oh, I don't have enough time to do it. If you say that now, I want to know what your schedule is like, because this is the one time that I think everyone has some free time to do it. So what advice do you have for people? Because I mean, so many people will also probably try to get that excuse of like, oh, I don't have any access to gyms, when they don't realize that, you can, there, you can find ways. But what advice do you have for people that are saying, like, hey, this is the perfect time for me to actually like start to get in shape? Because obviously with the fear of the virus, if you're healthier, you're going to be better off. And just what advice would you have for someone who's just trying to look to get started? Because I always say, if they can get that base before the gyms open back up, that's so much easier than to transition to a gym, knowing that you have that base, than just going cold turkey into a gym.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things especially now more than ever, everyone should be focusing, or at least have some kind of inkling as to how important health and fitness really is right now. And I think one of the biggest things I can say now for people who want to get started or want to get that base is focus on your nutrition, because right now that's something that no one can take away from you. The food stores are stocked. You have plenty of time to meal prep. There's so many educational things out there online, but also to make sure that you're educating yourself and you're finding the right materials. So I have a personal training business, and I am, shameless plug, I am open to all clients and everyone. I'm more than happy to educate everybody that needs us, just anything to get them started. But nutrition, definitely, by far, this is the prime time to start focusing on your nutrition, getting rid of those bad habits, the sodas in the fridge, or the donuts that you get every Sunday, or the pizza that you get every Friday. Just kind of cutting those little things out here and there and then doing your research on what kind of a training program you might be interested in, or do you want to, what are your goals? Writing down kind of what you want out of a training program or a fitness program. I think this is a really prime time to put your attention towards that.
Well, yeah, and just like anything else, I say just start walking too. I mean, that's no one unless you don't have access to both your legs. Yeah, walking though. I mean, it's so easy and everyone can do it. And hey, it's not that hard. Let's be honest. I mean, again, if you're like severely obese, then yeah, it's probably hard. But I mean, like for the average person, yeah, walking, it's something that we all do, and it's something that But so going back to that friend that I have, that's gonna be a PA. I went way too hard where I was getting blisters all over my feet, and I would literally just send her pictures and be like, "Is that infected? Is that infected?" so yeah, so I had fun with her with that. But yeah, it's really something that everyone can do. And yeah, I'll leave a link to your training. I mean, your coach stuff down below, and everyone, go and check that out definitely. And if we were to talk to you again, a year from today, again, I gotta add a disclaimer. We don't know what this next year is going to be like. I think this last year proved it, where, I mean, anything can happen. Anything's possible. I mean, I think alien invasion, like that funny tweet is, that's probably coming up in a couple of months. So, who knows what's going to happen. But if we were to talk to you a year from today, where would you like to be at in your bodybuilding, health, and fitness journey? Where would you like to be at, just in your overall life? What are some goals that you would like to have achieved?
So a year from now, I'll have been graduated from PA school. So I'm hoping to have passed my boards already and have a job lined up or started. Ideally, right now, I really love orthopedic surgery, but I also love internal medicine. So those are both really big options for me as far as where I want to go after PA school. And then I want to continue. Obviously, I want to build my business. I hope my business is a little bit bigger next year this time around. And as far as bodybuilding, I'm hoping to compete in the spring with some good results. I'm hoping to step on a non-tested stage as a natural athlete, and that's kind of my goal for next year, is to be able to place well and compete with kind of the big guns, and get on stage with them and kind of prove to myself that I am capable of, standing up there with them, and I deserve to be up there with them.
Well, God bless you for that, because we've heard plenty of stories where people have tried that and they're like, oh, crap. This is a whole different world. This is a whole different world. So I appreciate that you're doing that, because yeah, we had a guest that I'm going to be publishing her podcast in like a week, where she opened up about like the drug use and stuff, and it was a really great conversation. But I'm glad that you're doing that as a natural too, because yeah, that's so important for people to realize too. It's like, hey, you can step on that stage as a natural. You don't have to do that, and that's great as well. And so since people don't understand usually that after you graduate PA, you usually get like 3 months off. Are you planning on doing any traveling, or what's that 3 months looking like for you?
Yeah, it depends on when you can start. So a lot of people start applying. We graduate in June. A lot of the students start applying in like February, March area. So depending on when my start date is, some students started in August, some students started in September. So depending on when you start is how long you get off. I know I'll definitely have at least July, probably most of August off after I graduate. So as long as Corona decides to, fade away and, international borders open up, I'm definitely hoping to travel a bit. I want to see my family, but I definitely want to go abroad again. I haven't been abroad in a couple of years, or I guess a year and a half now, because I went to Thailand or Portugal about 2 years ago. So definitely hoping to get back abroad.
Wait, so have you been to Thailand?
Yes, I have been to Thailand.
Okay, so I gotta ask, because I had friends that go there. So is it really true that like I could probably take a year's worth of my savings and live there like a king for like a decade?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We spent less than $1,000 for the whole trip, and we were there for 2 weeks.
Well, like a friend of mine was talking about, like he stayed at like a 5-star hotel for only like $30 a night or something like that. Like,
Yeah,
it
we
was
had
ridiculous.
a 3-course dinner, and it cost me $15. That was alcohol, dessert, dinner, the whole 9 yards. But $15.
And yeah, guys, like, yeah, it's a quarter for a beer and stuff, and it's like, why don't more
It's
people? I
dirt
mean,
cheap.
yeah. Like if I was ever, so yeah, all these students out here, they're talking about, oh, I'm still living at home with parents. Go live in Thailand for God's
Yeah.
sakes. Then I mean, geez, you could probably live. I mean, yeah. So I've heard some people be like, yeah, I'm honest thinking about being an expat, because it's just absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, I've never been to Thailand or any of those countries where you can live like that, like a king. But hey, if that isn't more motivation to go out there and travel there, then yeah, I'm definitely all ears for that. But lastly, I mean, when it comes down to just what this whole journey's been like for you, especially during this coronavirus and during this last year, I mean, it's really hard to predict what things are going to be like. But in an ideal world, I mean, where would you like to be at, in the future? I know it's kind of like where would you like to be at a year from now, but like in an ideal world, I mean, do you have any plans set in your head of like, this is exactly what I want?
I have an idea, but I like to not get too stuck in that rut just because I don't know what jobs are going to be opening up. I don't know where I'm going to be able to find a job when I graduate, but as of right now, I'd like to stay in the South for a while. If I can get a job down in Tampa, I'd love to stay down here. I absolutely love it here. It's beautiful. But the goal is to stay down in the South somewhere, work for a couple of years, enjoy myself down here, and then eventually, when I want to settle down, maybe start a family, move back up north, close to my family, so they can be all close together and everything. But right now, the goal is to stay down here, get a job down here, and enjoy my time in the warm weather.
So your goal is you want to make your kids suffer then by living in the Pittsburgh weather
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
No Pittsburgh. I refuse. I will not go
No
back to
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
Well, hey, I'm not blaming you for that one.
I
Yeah.
love Pittsburgh. No offense to my Pittsburgh peeps. I love it there, but the weather, I just can't. I can't do it.
Well, then don't go to Minnesota if you think Pittsburgh weather is bad. That's all I'm gonna say. Jesus. But no, it's just and that's great. I mean, again, if I were to look into my future a year from now, I'd have 1 million subscribers and I'd be able to retire from everything else and just hey, but hey, it's probably not going to happen. I just got to keep reminding myself that. But again, Ally, we cannot thank you enough for coming on. I mean, it was so great to catch up to you and talk about all this stuff that's been going on, especially, we've had a few, people in the medical field come on and talk about coronavirus, and it's been, fascinating how things are going. And have you heard anything about, when they might see like a vaccine come along? Because we've heard people say that, there might be one by the end of the year, there might be one by January. Everyone knows the Russians have come up with one, but God knows what's in that thing. So who knows what's in that stuff. But has there been any news on that front?
I've heard that they've had one in phase 3 of testing, which is one of like the final phases. So I think that there is a possibility that there might be one by the end of the year. Whether the government makes that mandatory or not, I mean, I'm in the medical field. I won't have a choice, most likely. But yeah, I have a feeling that we might see one by the end of the year. I don't know how efficacious it's going to be. But I have heard rumors that there are some vaccines that have made it pretty far in the testing world.
Well, and lastly, for the people that are listening that might be a little less intelligent than the average population, why do we go through phases when we're testing out a vaccine? Because I believe me, in the beginning of this pandemic, I had those thoughts where it's like, screw the test, just give it to. I don't care what's in it, just give it to me as long as it helps with the vaccine. But in medical terms, because I would not be able to describe it as eloquently as someone who actually knows what they're talking about. So what are the reasons behind having the phases as opposed to just saying, hey, we think that this works, let's try it?
Yeah, so the phases are basically to make sure that the virus or the vaccine is A, not going to kill you, and B, not going to cause any kind of life threatening or life altering changes. So that's kind of like the first couple of phases. The last couple of phases is more like the marketing aspect of it and like all of that. But definitely a lot of the research is just on what exactly is this vaccine going to do? What kind of changes is it going to do to the body? Are there any long-term effects that we need to be aware of, or any kind of serious major side effects that would, prohibit us from putting this on the market?
I think because like if you've seen the movie Contagion, which is I watched it as soon as this broke out, they had that scene where the doctor purposely injects herself with what she thinks might be a vaccine and then exposes herself to it, and because it worked for her, it's a vaccine that works for everyone, and the next thing you know, it's
Yeah.
like 2 weeks later they're like, we're pumping out hundreds of thousands of this vaccine, and
It's like I Am Legend almost.
yeah, just because his blood is the one that the cure is in that one blood, that it's gonna
Yeah.
work for everyone. So I think people are a little bit Hollywood eyes where they think that just because it might work for one person, then give it to everyone. It's gonna work. Where that's not what it's really like. Because I think so many people would think, with today's technology, why would they take this long to come up with a cure? But who knows? But again, thank you so much for coming on. Oh, and lastly, I got to ask this because I am still struggling with boredom in this podcast. So every guest that I have on, have there been any go-to shows that you've binge watched that you would recommend for anyone out there?
So I would recommend Scandal. However, they took it off of Netflix halfway through my binge watching. Yeah, I was not happy. So it's on HBO. I have no access to HBO, so I can't watch it on there, or Hulu or something like that. I don't know, but they took it off Netflix. However, if you have access to those other, I guess, platforms, then definitely watch Scandal. It's very addicting. Olivia Pope is unbelievable. So I think that's kind of that one. And there have been a couple of documentaries I've watched. Like everyone's watched the Epstein documentary, the Fire Festival documentaries, that kind of stuff.
Did
Just
you
like
watch the
little
gymnastics documentary?
No, I am working on it. I don't think my boyfriend's very interested in it, so I have to find a time when he's not here that I can watch it.
Oh god, it's bad. Like I have friends that were in gymnastics I talked to them about, it, and it's like, oh god. And then
I've heard some. I watched Sean Johnson's interview. I think it was Sean Johnson's interview, and just even watching her interview was just kind of revolting. So I can't imagine that documentary must be just terrifying.
well, I've watched because like I said, I've had the free time. Like I've watched. They have recordings of him like when he first got caught, like in talking to the Michigan State people and stuff about like his techniques and how everything's legit. And like he got away with it again because like he convinced them the first time that it was legit, and I was like, I don't get how you could. But I don't even want to get into that because that's I'm not even touching that with a 100-foot pole because that's just. But yeah, I'm surprised that happened. But I will say so. The one girly show that I watched is You, and that was good. I recommend that. But I just binge watched the first season this last weekend. The Boys, it's called.
The Boys.
Yeah, it's like a superhero TV show where
Okay.
except it's set in like a universe where like if superheroes were like actual celebrities and they're not the nicest people, like superheroes, like they kill people by
Okay.
accident and stuff, and then they just say like,
Oh, that's
oh, I'm
interesting.
sorry. And so what happens is the guy's girlfriend gets killed in the first episode, and then his revenge is he wants to kill all the superheroes then. So then he goes. So it's really, and it's like it has comedic moments too, and it's funny. And then he ends up falling for one of the superheroes because she's brand new and she's all innocent and stuff. And it's fascinating. So I highly recommend that for everyone out there. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I've just been watching movies like crazy. But again, Allie, we cannot thank you enough for coming on, and I couldn't think of a better way to end that. Can you give us a front double buy so everyone can just get
Oh
motivated to
yeah.
work out? Oh my god, everyone! Yeah, we gotta all get in shape and give us an abs too because I know that you have really good abs, and that was embarrassing last time too. So
Still got the abs.
so
Yep.
here let's show the abs then. So let's embarrass everyone then. Really oh my god. Okay. Yeah.
They're not as shredded as they were, but they're still there.
Well, again, Allie, thank you so much for coming on. This is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.
All right, have a good one.